guys, hey, before we get into this video, I just want to mention I recorded this like a few weeks ago, and since that time, I've actually made a radio show dedicated to the label Drag City that sort of features a bunch of these records plus a whole lot more. So I will link to that radio show below. You should check it out. Searching for a thread on WRFI Community Radio. Otherwise, enjoy. I'm drinking tea tonight. A little cold. So I hope everyone's doing well and swell out there. Another late summer evening here. Not too late. More crickets. Actually nice and cool and lovely. I'm going to focus on a label I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. I was trying to figure out how to approach it. And it's a label I've been collecting for a long time. By my count, I have 118 releases on this label. I thought I actually might have more. But as I was trying to prepare how to do this video, because it's such a long-running label with such a wide history, a wide breadth of releases, I was thinking about what's the best way to go. Should I show my favorite records, the best artists, the ones I have the most of? I don't know. And I decided just sort of impulsively tonight to just show the rare and the weird. Some of the records that are hard to get, some of the records that are weird. And the label I'm talking about is Drag City Records, founded in Chicago by Dan Koretsky and Dan Osborne in 1989, and they're still going strong today, releasing at least 3 to 5 records a month, maybe depending on a little bit less or more than that. And over the years, I can't think of a more consistent, more diverse, more interesting. Yeah, over the course of their tenure as a label, they've never stopped. Always kept their records in print for the most part. Been friendly to artists. They only recently went digital in 2017, so until then you couldn't hear any of their records on streaming platforms. But they're doing that now too. And I just think they're going from the beginning all the way till now. They're still releasing interesting stuff. And as far as the other major indies, Matador Records, Merge Records, Domino, Sub Pop, they're just blowing them away. No one, all those labels at this point are sort of like shells of what they used to be. And, they still have some good marks too, but, they just can't keep up with Drag City's sort of consistency and interesting roster. So yeah, for this video, maybe I'll do a second part with my favorites, but for this one I want to focus on the rare and the weird. I'm going to start with some important 7-inches, singles. The most important one for me, one of my all-time favorite bands, Pavement, from 1990, recorded at the end of 1989. It's Perfect Sound Forever, a great title. This and the other one I want to show are compiled on the Westing compilation on Drag City. Here's the original flyer insert with the first releases. Of course, World Trucks was DC1, Demolition Block J7, which I'll show in a second, was DC2. A lot of the Pavement and Royal Trucks, and then Smog, another favorite band of mine. But yeah, this is one of the early EPs. I don't have the first Pavement EP, unfortunately, but there it is, Drag City, number 4. This is Pavement at their most sort of lo-fi and chaotic, but great. Includes one of their early classics, Debris Slide. This is not actually as much as it should be in my mind. You might be able to find this for $20 to $30 on a good day. And here's that Demolition Plot J7. This I got not that long ago, maybe 7 8 years ago. And this is DC2, I guess it is, right? Yeah. This includes the other part of what would be on that EP, Westing by Musket and Sextant. Great titles Pavement had. Forklifts, Bizzle Trunk, recorder grot, internal K-dart, so a few more 7 inches that are sort of from the early years. The very first Silver Juice 7-inch, technically an EP. This is certainly barely a band at this time. David Berman, Stephen Malkmus, and Bob Nastanovich. This is what? Drag City 18. 5-track EP. David Berman's handwriting. So yeah, just showing some of the 7 inches, some of the early 7 inches. This is one of the early Palace. I don't have the very first one, but Stable Will and Horses. Of course, Will Oldham, his early group, with his brother. And I think there's like 2 or 3 before this, but I just love this cover. Here's one of the original catalog inserts. Great Drag City label. Talking up some bands here, I don't know. Hot Toasters, or do know, but just don't have. Mantis, of course, King Kong's on here. A couple other I want to show. Usually with a pretty simple label, Drag City. I mean, when you think of Drag City, you think of you think of Will Oldham, Bill Callahan, Joanna Newsom, the bigger artists, Ty Segall. I have most of those artists in one way or another. But for this one I wanted to show some different stuff, maybe in the next video. And another favorite, Flying Saucer Attack. A bunch of their stuff is on Drag City or Domino or VHF. And here's another early insert. Alright, forgot a Shellac 7-inch was on there at one point. Mail order insert, which I always love. This is dated December 94. Mantis. I don't have any Mantis stuff. Anyway. So. Yeah, here's that cool label. So this is some early 7 inches. This Flying Saucer Attack was DC 59. And here's the 10 LPs. The weird and the rare and the weird. And we'll see, next time maybe I'll show some of my favorite records. Alright, we're listening to the Thought Adjusters. Yehovah, Father Yod. This is out of print right now, but it is it is unreleased jams from the Father Yod and the Source family, the Yehovah 13. What they were doing, if you don't know, this is Jim Baker, who led the Source family cult in the early to mid 70s, and this is sort of all stuff that didn't make any of his private press LPs, which I'm sure you know are pretty rare. Not incredibly rare. Sometimes they do turn up, but no one wanted them at the time, and they used to make them just as a way to sort of spread their message. But I won't get too far into these guys. You should know about this guy, Jim Baker, aka Father God, but these are all recordings, never been released in any other place, from 73 to 74. And this is called the Thought Adjusters, and that's what we're listening to. I remember finding this in Philly many years ago now. Yeah, the guy, certainly controversial in terms of most people. I'm probably one of them. I really enjoy the band more than him, although at times he can reach some cool heights with his sort of proselytizing and hooting and hollering. There's a double. And this is the thing about Drag City. They're releasing new music, experimental music, one-off records, and reissues, which I'm going to talk about. But yeah, one more time with those great images of the Source family folks. Here's another, well, that was archival. This is a reissue, a Hawaiian rarity called These Trails from 1973. And again, I just want to show some of the stuff that you might not associate or even know is on Drag City. This is a pretty rare private press and a sort of acid folk rarity, but it includes a lot of synthesizer, and it's from Hawaii, so it has that sort of peaceful, sort of oceanside, serene sort of dreamy feel to it. Sunshine dappling through the branches, flashing dark, dim, and bright. This is great. This is a long time want on the original press, but haven't had a chance at it. There is... I won't get too into the... But it was really the work of Margaret Morgan and Patrick Crockett. Patrick Crockett. I guess that looks like just one of them. This is a reproduction of the inner sleeve with the lyrics. Beautiful. They do a great... Drag City does great work. That's the other thing. In terms of their design, and they usually, source things from the right places when it comes to reissues. And they're usually in print. And if it looks like they're in print and it's starting to go for money, wait. They usually will press many records. These Trails. Originally from '73, this is a 2011 Drag City reissue. This one is one that has gone up, and in fact, all of this band's records on Drag City have. I don't know if we were pressing these. I'm missing one. It's Movie Tone. I talked about them before. It's a kind of a running parallel with Flying Saucer Attack project, and they're on Domino in the UK. And the early record was on a different label, but this is the Sand and the Stars, the last studio record. Bristol band includes Rachel Coe, who was also in Flying Saucer Attack. But yeah, other than that, like Matt Jones, Sam Jones, who were also in some other Bristol bands. I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but so this is one of the many great Bristol groups out of the '90s. And while a lot of that stuff is sort of post-rock and a little psychedelia, this band really lives in sort of a little calmer, a little more pastoral. Gorgeous music. This is, again, 2003, The Sand and the Stars. Movie Tone. All music performed by Movie Tone, recorded and mixed by Matt Jones, so he's one of the key members. But I know Rachel Coe, under a different name, was with David Pierce in Flying Saucer Attack. Alright, next. You tell me if you think I should do another video focusing on the best ones. Here's one. Here's a weird one. Oops, a little out of order. I mean, they were always surprising with what they did. And this is another case of that. A compilation of Expressway tracks, the New Zealand experimental cassette label, on Drag City. Famous logo. Expressway was not like Flying Nun. They were really focused more on sort of DIY and punk and experimental. Of course, Dead Sea, who is on this. But Dead Sea, Alistair Galbraith and Graham Jeffries, Peter Jeffries and Robbie Muir, The Terminals, David Mitchell and Denise Rohan, and Plagal Grind. Here's a '93 Drag City catalog. I think this has, yes, the original insert, showing off some of the Expressway stuff. Really cool. Plagal Grind, that single I'm after, 12-inch I'm after. Terminals I don't have, I have a compilation of the Terminals. Dead Sea, I've got some stuff. I have a whole bunch of Peter Jeffries stuff, but this is the original insert. Definitely more on the experimental side of New Zealand music, but not entirely difficult, although Dead Sea is certainly one of those that lives in that world. How cool. Making noise. Oh, making losers happy. This goes back to... the year is... I guess it's 92. So another early Drag City release. Most of these are early. Well, half anyway. Here's the very first broadcast record I bought, which is a compilation of their Duophonic and Wurlitzer jukebox singles. I didn't know what this was at the time, but I was just so intrigued by the sleeve art. And just again, great design. This has been reissued by Warp, but this is the Drag City. The only thing that they did for broadcast. This is from '97. If you don't know this band, you should. a group specializing in bringing back the sort of psychedelic ballads from the late 60s with very much influenced by BBC Radiophonic Workshop in Dealey, Derbyshire, and the United States of America, psychedelic pop. Trish Keenan, right in the middle there, unfortunately passed away in 2011 from a severe pneumonia. And there's been various projects that kind of continue on in their name, but nothing has been quite as special as Broadcast to me. This is great. And composed, I think it's 3 different singles, like an EP and 2 singles. Work and non-work on Drag City from '97. This is one I haven't listened to since maybe once. It was an early record in my collection, the Red Crayola from 1994 on Drag City. And this is when the band was, David Grubbs, John McIntyre, Jim O'Rourke, and Mayo Thompson, who is the Red Crayola, basically, going back to the 60s. A few other members, Stephen Prina, Tom Watson, but just Jim O'Rourke, John McIntyre, and David Grubbs. That kind of says it all there. I don't remember what this sounds like. I'm gonna have to play this. So that's another reason why I wanted to pick out some of these, is just to get a chance to play them, maybe do a radio show with some of the stuff. The title of this one, 1994, we got, what is the title? Is this self-titled? It might be. Yeah, it is self-titled. I think it's an album. I'll get back to on this one, more to come, or stay tuned to my radio show. But the Red Crayola was still going in the 90s, and just bringing in some of the sort of heavyweights of that time in Chicago, and working with Mayo Thompson, who's a legend. What a great meeting of the minds. They also, Drag City reissued the Mayo Thompson Corky's Debt to His Father, a very rare sort of avant psychedelic rock folk record. Here's a curio from a Japanese artist, Fumio Miyashita, who was in the Far East Family Band and released a bunch of different prog and new age music in Japan. This is a live recording to, I think it was like VHS tape, but from 79 and 80 on a cable access station in Japan. It's called Live on the Buffo Mundo Show. Another thing I want to point out, a lot of these records, because they've been kept in print, I know I mentioned some of these are rare, but others are like less than $10. This might be one of them. It's like, yeah, it says Cosmic Synth Bliss. I want to explore more of his records, but here's the insert. This came out in March 2017. It's archival, wasn't released at the time, but it's mainly Miyashita on synths and tapes and flute and percussion, along with Lance Hooks on guitar and George Babon on bass from 1979-1980. Fumio Miyashita. A cool one. This is another one I haven't listened to in a while. I just hope you're getting the sort of diversity and sort of wide-ranging breadth of Drag City. This next one I think I'm going to play to finish out the video. George Edwards Group. There's 3 records that Drag City is put out by George Edwards Group. One is a reissue. It's originally like a 200 copy private press from 1977 that doesn't even have artwork. It's just the record. And so that's what this is. This is a reissue of that with new artwork. And it's a George Edwards Group. It's just called 3838. And it's a duo out of Detroit. Rarely heard spaced basement masterpiece, Preston Amount 200. Synth struck loner folk from the Detroit area. Cold shot of late era psychedelia. Late 70s, there was a lot of private press going on, and it was all, a lot of it sounded like basement psych or basement prog. Of course, power pop was starting to happen, but private press scene in the late 70s was pretty significant, and this is Drag City sort of paying tribute to that. So you get all the notes on the back. And that's another thing. They've worked with other little imprints, and this is the Galactic Zoo disc imprint from Steve Krakow. This is cool. It does sound like sort of basement psychedelia, very dreamy and raw. So let's play a little bit of this. So that's what we have here. George Edwards Group 3838. There's 2 other George Edwards records on Drag City. One was just called Archives, and one was called like 3. I have those two. They're great, and those are dirt cheap. So look into these guys. And 2 more. This next one's probably one of the most famous artists in the roster. Though they weren't always on the roster. I mentioned them before. This is one of the early LPs on the label, and one of 2 Royal Trucks records. I actually purged a bunch of them. I decided to keep this one and Cats and Dogs. This is Twin Infinitives, double LP, sprawling. I gotta listen to this one again. It's been many years, but Jennifer Harema and Neil Haggerty of Pussy Galore. They go back to the late 80s and got signed a version of all labels for like a big deal following the Nirvana success. But this one is sort of a sprawling lo-fi kind of concept record almost. You might call masterpiece. This might be my favorite thing they did, but they sort of successfully merged lo-fi and avant-garde and humor, sort of. Oh God, there's not like a lot of. You got to listen to this whole thing and find out all the cool little nuggets that are sprinkled about, but they were going for it, and there was like no one really who was in the same league as them. Twin Infinitives on Drag City. I don't know if this one's in print, but this is one of the ones that people are certainly looking for. And I recommend it. There's like 2 different untitled records. It's confusing, but Tricksters, Royal Trucks, Twin Infinitives. And the last one I'll show is another reissue from another rare private press, another one I've been looking for a long time. I don't know if I'll ever see it or ever see it for a reasonable price, but that tea. Good. But I love this record. This is a psychedelic folk monster. Gary Higgins. Look at this guy. You want to be that guy, don't you? You want to. I know you want to look and feel like that guy. Red Hash from '73 on his own. I think it was his own label. I don't have it in front of me, but something like Nanook or something. But out of Connecticut. It's a beautiful album. It's psychedelic folk, but it's beautiful. It's super baked and stoned and very mellow in a wonderful way. There's a bunch of cool inserts on this. So Drag City did a great job repressing this, I don't know if it's remastered, but original lyric insert. They've done a fair amount of reissues. I have more, but I'm just not showing, but this came with a 7-inch with 2 non-LP tracks. And, a bumper sticker. Forgot that was in there. Yeah, it's a bumper sticker. I have no bumper stickers on my car. I kind of want to stick this on. Red Hash. I highly recommend this. This has been repressed continuously. I don't know if the 7-inch still comes with it, but there it is. I mean, that's the other thing when they do reissues. They always sort of emulate the original label design. Obviously, just change the label. I like when labels do that. They almost pay tribute or copy the original design, but just sort of make it obvious that it's not the original by putting in Drag City. And like I said, check out the track Thicker Than a Smoky. It's the first track to get an idea. And he's come back and still has released a few more newer records. I think there's an archival record, which I don't have, but there it is. 10 LPs, the rare and the weird, on Drag City. Do I do a part 2 with some of the more obvious stuff? We'll see. We'll see what people think out there. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Tell me what I should do. I'll listen. I'll get to it. It's fun to dig back into these records too. I really like going back into the collection and pulling out stuff that's already here, as Fred has said. Big Star 1000 in his collection, or Big Star 1000 in his videos. But the idea of like shopping in your own collection, you don't need to go to the store when you have your own record store right here of stuff you haven't played enough. So it's been cool to dig back into some of these. All right, that's my focus on Drag City. Yeah, it's funny looking up their Wikipedia. There's like barely a little info about how the label came to be, but Dan Koretsky's still running the label and going strong. Great folks. I've talked with them many times. The label for Angry Mom, they're big on supporting indie retail. Ryan Murphy, great guy. Talked with him a bunch. So anyway, Drag City, a label I'll always support and will always check out. Every year there's always at least a couple records that make it into my favorites of the year. So let me know what you think, and throw out some of your favorites from the label's history. Maybe it's stuff I don't know or don't have, and maybe some under the radar ones. Alright, that's it. Take care. Hope you enjoyed that. See ya.